Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. I'm newtmechanist, and today we're getting back into our coding project. But before we do, let's check in with the kitties. Let's see. Sammy is over in one of the boxes in the little plastic tote there. Mason and Sky are napping on the bed. Sherbet getting a snack. He was over here by me, giving me meaningful looks because the food dish is empty. It's one of the primary times that he trots over to me to interact as if the food dish is empty. Sky will do that too. It's hard to tell the difference with Sky between I would like attention or I will become a problem, and I would like food in the dish or I will become a problem. Ember is on my shoulder. Molly is passing onto the table there. Molly has become the primary occupant of the spot that she has approached there across the desk. She does not really care if somebody else is there. She'll flop down with them. That has become one of her primary regions, which has kind of thrown the general territory distribution into disarray. Ember now tries to figure out between the desk side and the shelf, the upper right and lower right cameras, respectively, as to where she wants to be when she is not perched upon me. Though she does spend a great deal of time over there at the TV. I did put one of those little rings next to it, a little scratching post / ring that she will hide in order to jump out and pounce at the screen. But yeah, Molly has had a disrupting influence on the distribution of locations. Okay. Oh, excuse me. So the problem we've run into in the code recently, let's run it again and make sure. Oh, I know there's something that will be visibly odd here in a moment. So we tried to add avoidance. It is not functional at the moment. But we do have like map wall avoidance in place. We can see things slowing down pretty tangibly as they converge. It's not too bad, but it does reduce our performance. And one of the things that we're facing here is that we have a lot of logic going on at different intervals, and I would like to resolve some of it. If we want to get avoidance in place the way we were planning to, we need to be able to move much, much faster with the shader. The shader itself is pretty swift, but as opposed to the one that is controlling where the passable areas on the floor are, that the avoidance one has to run at least every couple or few frames. And it's not that fast. So what we end up having is hanging periods because it happens in the physics frame. It kicks off at the end and then gets finished at the top. And we can't really do that. Or at least we don't want to actually wait for that. We don't want to block on that. But figuring out how to wrangle that is an issue. Additionally, it brings up the problem of how much work is happening during the physics frame, and that I don't really want to have to rely entirely on the Godot heartbeat. It's not that it is bad, it's serving its function. And that is a relatively regular beat for the engine to be running at. But I have some operations that take long enough that if we're sitting there and waiting in the physics frame, it bogs down Godot, and potentially the rest of the program in general. So we want to accomplish a couple of things. One is investigate different ways to break apart the logic such that we can run as concurrently as possible with some of this. Again, it doesn't matter that we have a big complex algorithm for calculating the wall avoidance in a block. It becomes a problem when we have to deal with the idea of avoiding all of the enemies during that, because again, very frequently we have to run that shader and get those calculations, and we know that that shader is going to be pretty chunky as far as what it does. This is the one that we are running currently. We ran into a couple of problems with the way that our logic was going to flow, what we were trying to do with some of it. So there will be a refactor in that regard. The sharing of buffers can't really happen. If we want to parallelize some of the code, we can't do shared buffer. We can do shared data source, but we can't do shared buffer because each buffer is tethered to a specific rendering device. And if we want to do what amounts to concurrent shader runs, we need to keep those separate. So we lose some efficiency in the idea of having the data source of where entities are shared across shared in GPU memory simultaneously, and results in more traffic too as far as updates. But we might be able to get away with that if we can get these things running concurrently. But anyway, we need our 0 position updating, and we need to pass that in. So our .0 needs to be updated, and our .0 is where the player is. This is something that I wasn't setting properly in our... It's not in collision, it's in avoidance. We need 0 so that we can recenter it according to where things are. And then we need to apply that offset when we get to it. Right now... Explorer. I think we're just dumping it into flow values. Actually saving this one off. Save flow to image. Okay, avoidance.exr, it's in the base folder. Rita has updated their mascot picture once again. Their robotic squirrel mouse thing. Okay, so here's the offset misbehaving because we are not updating the 0. We need to create the offset around the player. There is some hope to what we're seeing. The idea is to create an area where when it's visible on screen, the avoidance kicks in, or really some distance off screen, the avoidance kicks in. It will be a wide enough area. You're probably looking at the screen in the center and then a full screen in each direction. as to where avoidance needs to be calculated so that the player won't like be able to run and reach them before the avoidance kicks in. It is still likely that we'll get kind of enemy blooming out from a position once that starts happening, but we'll see. Are there idiosyncrasies present? Yes. I believe these are where enemies are. Get my... Don't know what we're setting them to currently because only the red value is being changed. But we need to pass in the 0, and we need to make sure that the 0 is being handled appropriately as we go. 0 is the center here, and it will be... Do we have a position indicator? We don't have the position, and I don't know where to set that tool. Anyhow, we center it around the player is where 0 will be, and then proportional to where that 0 is, we create vectors that say push away from enemies that appear around this 0. Why is it doing this? I don't know yet. That's a bug. And this is effectively the bottom right corner. Again, it's skewed weirdly. So we have lots of ground to cover. First, we'll get this working, then, well, as working as we can, and then we're going to start looking into kind of an ugly refactor. I want to start breaking the core flow up from being a linear set of steps. Yeah, here we go. In physics process, we go through this series of invokes, and each of them is potentially bulky, especially this one. I want to look into each of these being essentially an independent state. And what would happen is that this one gets kicked off. We call start step. That triggers a series of events. And once the start step is over, some trigger message gets fired and the state shifts to game time passed. Stuff happens, game time passed done, state gets switched over to game end step. Now, the difference with this is that as soon as I invoke start step, we divest ourselves from physics process. We're done with that call. And we're moving along. Could we do awaits in this? Yes. That is the simplest way we could approach it, is just to say, do this and await the end. Do this, await the end. That may be where we start. But getting the rest of the structure in place fully could be a good thing for us because it lets us push our time elsewhere and lets us get into a structure where if something could be done in parallel, we have a pattern to allow it. Because this is one set of back-to-back states. There is nothing that prevents us from saying there is an intermediate state that might sometimes happen. There is a double back inside this state where if it completes in one fashion, it continues along. If it completes in another, it forks over somewhere else. As long as we're in this domain, this can work, and we may stay here. Again, we'll probably start with the, quote, easy way and go from there. But for now, we get the avoidance working because it and the avoidance, collision, both of those are relatively expensive as far as how we're interacting with the GPU and the CPU. Hey there, Key. Welcome. Just talking through what we're up to today. Let's see. Oof. Rotate the shoulder. Oh, so, okay. With avoidance, we get the 0 in. We need to account for 0 in this process. Yeah, okay. We are not currently using 0 in this logic, so we're going to have to deal with that. Lower bound. Okay, so this is currently setting up our... This is where our effective center of the texture is. So we need to use the position offset from 0. So when we get the entity's position, we need to account for the 0 being applied to it, where we add whatever 0 is to what we're comparing it to. Or at least where we are marking it in the image. Because we only care about the entity. So this is where the entity's position is. And we're searching around it. There's cleanup we could do to this algorithm, but for the most part, it will eventually function in this regard. So again, we need to apply 0 to this. Like, where is the center located? So this is where we get the entity's position, its actual position in world space. The offset is applied as far as the image is concerned. So in theory, adding 0 here is where we want to look. So that is area params.data. Area params.data.0. Hello, Ember. Come here. Oh, I'm sorry. I moved. Come on. Yeah. Yes, but I was about to walk onto your shoulder, and you shifted slightly to make it easier for me to walk onto your shoulder. And that threw off her groove. It's the line, I'm sorry, you've thrown off the Emperor's groove. So if we add 0 here, then that makes it so that the actual position of the entity has to fall within the position of the circle of the actual grid. And it should be rendered accordingly. We will need to check and see that, okay, it is collidable. Collidable should still function for our purposes. Okay, let's check Godot and make sure that it compiles. That compiled. Looking at collision, we're looking at avoidance. No compiled errors. Good, good. Okay, let's run it again. 0 is still not accounted for. It's going to treat it as if the player were always standing up here. Hello, Mab. Welcome. Okay, that is still... This is still wrong. Definitely a math error going on there. No, you can't touch that. No. Guy is currently in the lower left of the bed. Switch over and put Molly on camera. How you doing today, Key? Map, how you doing today? So we need to get 0 properly into that. "25th consecutive stream." Very nice. Applying 0, which means 0 is always going to be 0, 0. Starting your own game dev journey, huh? What are you trying to make? Balance of 7. Okay, what kind of game is Strife Balance of 7? Certainly has a bombastic title. Survival roguelike. Like, gather materials and craft style survival, or what? Okay. Don't get a player state. What do we call that in services? Did I even add that to services in that way? Let's find out. Does ask for player state, which means we should get a player state. But it could be that that's happening right at the beginning. The player should exist before any of that happens. Okay. That's pretty much what we're making here. We should get something here. It implies that player might not be present. Okay, this is C#. We're using Godot. Which version of Godot are we on right now? We're currently on Godot 4.5. I haven't checked to see if 4.6 has anything I really want to jump on yet. So Godot is our platform for handling like rendering and all of that, but most of the footwork is happening in C#. Right now, we're debugging the process leading up to a compute shader that is handling the logic to make all of the enemies avoid each other. And the reason that I'm having to do fiddlier stuff... Let me just stop this. We'll cull this for a moment because we know it's not working. Get player is not functioning. So the reason that things get fiddly, there are 500 enemies currently, is that we can do this. So the bullets cannot be calculated entirely linearly here, or through, like, we can't take any of the shortcut calculations that you normally can do with lots and lots of bullets, because every one of them behaves individually. Every one of them can have completely different movement and behavior. Right now, there are about 4,000 of them, and we're getting about 26 frames a second. Is it likely that the player would have this kind of state? No. This is what I call a calamity case. This is... the player has already won. It's just a matter of how long they want to play. There'll be a brief pause while it generates even more. So right now, while this is going, there is a shader happening every frame that determines if any collisions are happening. There is movement logic that takes into account the black areas currently to determine where you can move. And additionally, we're working on a shader that will make it so that the blobs don't stand on top of each other. If we were able to do purely procedural movement, purely mathematical movement, then we could get away with simpler logic. But what we're doing right here is largely trying to put as much kind of flock-like behavior into it as we can, while still accounting for the fact that every different projectile and enemy can have a dynamic individual movement. It'll take a bit for these to fade. The little wind-up mice last 10 real seconds. One of the other aspects of this is that the simulation of the game world happens in fixed steps. Beyond just the normal physics delta time kind of thing that you do, we enforce a fixed length of that. So even if the delta between steps has been, a whole second, we treat that entire second as if it were, I think we're using like a 30th right now. So no matter how long has passed, it will be that long. If not enough time has passed for it to be that long, we wait until it is. So no matter how slow the game gets, as far as how much strain we're putting on the engine, the simulation still moves at a fixed pace. So previously we were able to get closer to 10,000 before we got severe performance dip. Now we're back down to about 5. We need to be able to handle at least 2,000 for the sort of gameplay that I want to be able to handle. Sitting idle with the shaders running, we can get about, let's say, 1,100 or 110 frames a second. Technically, it can be more. I'm not always up on the pattern acronyms. Can you fully spell that one out? The answer is probably no, because I don't recognize it, but sometimes I'm doing something similar while not expressly using the pattern. I'm pretty sure no, Map. So let me pull up the data structure for the entities here. This I probably need spawner as well. Yeah, I need spawner. That's where we're setting its behavior. Is this the one where I set it? Yes. No. Yeah. Right? No. I'm just trying to locate where I put this. Oh, that's why. Roll map, level test. Door, they're doing 2-player and spawn around player. Gotta be another spot. Anyway, I can demonstrate it without finding exactly what I'm using right now. Yes. So the difficulty that we have in doing that kind of structure is that the data for each of the entities gets increasingly modular. So each blob that appears has a chain of behaviors that is how it will operate. And each one of those behaviors is its own individual thing that can have its own timers, its own set of random variables to it. So if I try to break it out into if I try to break them out as individual things, the data structure gets really wildly complicated really fast. If I'm thinking of the pattern that you're talking about. So each of those behaviors is its own thing. Each of the visuals is its own thing. We itemize all of it. So it's not just that there is an enemy object, there is the visuals of it, there is the collision handling of it. Each of the behaviors in its chain is its own thing. They each behave on their own. So everything is super duper modular. Everything is very easily like swap out. It comes down to the amount of footwork we have to do per frame. So, let's see. Solo project and the data structure is non-trivial, so I often have to go find stuff. Here we go. So, like, for this time passed step, every one of those enemies, every one of those bullets is going to get the time passed message, and it's going to send that down to all of the behaviors it contains in order. Each of those behaviors could do absolutely anything. And it's possible that over the course of its lifespan, the behaviors on an entity might change dynamically. The act of inflicting harm when an object touches another object is a behavior. It's not just, I guess I am. My programming journey started before a lot of patterns were named. And I try to find them and look up things to see if there's any sort of pattern that I could leverage. But a lot of coding patterns are kind of like battle plans, is they fall apart as soon as you encounter the enemy. This has got to be fourth or fifth iteration. When we started this project, we were doing it entirely in Godot using GD script. And we have steadily had to like tear it down and rebuild it, tear it down and rebuild it. So like I said, this is a shader that does collision for us. We break it apart into X executions, and each execution runs an amount of time to allow the GPU to have time to complete it without timing out. Because if a compute shader runs for too long, it just stops. So I think, to put another way, a lot of the complexity of the code that I've got is self-inflicted because of the way we want to do this system. If the behavior of the bullets in my code was fixed, as in they had one concrete bit of behavior, each of those algorithms could be tuned down and often be deterministic. Yeah, that's where you want to be, Mab. The idea of once you've got an engine, to be able to reuse it. If I continue down the road that I am, the way that the game works, a kind of top down, move around, bump into walls, navigate that way. The core engine will be easily swappable. I can spawn things into the room, that kind of stuff. The change to in order to make the game behave differently becomes how the overall kind of game management runs. Is there an inventory system? Okay, there's an inventory system. Not, that's how collision works. This is how collision works. That is reusable. Should give us 0, but... Okay, once again, when we get to here, get player gets us 0. So if I go to base player state... Player service, it's in the base player state. We call get player. We should have a player object as of that time. Put some breaks around here until I can figure out what's going on. Okay, oof. This is running before the player is loaded. Oh. Okay, but this part, all of these will need to be updated. This part needs to change on the fly is the thing. It might be apparent, Mab, but the number in the title is the stream. We do a little bit of work off of it, but like any sort of stream, there's a lot of chat and not as much progress. So some of them can be pretty verbose. I'm not saying don't watch my streams. Absolutely watch my streams. The algorithm loves that. But just, forewarned. But you can definitely see the evolution over time. We need to update the storage buffer for the area data uniform here. And when we load that, getting the entity position buffer there. We don't need to update the output buffer, but we do need to load the area params buffer with new data. Hey, I don't trust you over there, Sky. Yeah, come here. One second, I have to catch a troublemaker. No. Yes. Dangerously close to a beverage and giving me the I want something or else I'm going to start wrecking stuff look and chirping at me. And the food dish contains food, so the thing he probably wants is attention. Switch over to the cameras while I give him requested attention. like Mason and Sherbet napping on the bed. Then Molly conked out across from the keyboard. Ember giving Molly the side eye because Molly's in her favorite spot. Sammy over on the shelf. And Sky on my lap. All 6 either, attached to me or visibly present. Okay, so we need to update the buffer. Hopefully it's going to let me get away with the buffer update here. Okay, then we need, how are we messing with area params? This will need to be rewritten to be a method. Let's put that at 0 for now. Make sure this still executes. Okay, so then at the start of base avoidance, anytime this whole thing is going to need another rewrite pass. Get rendering device doesn't work the way we want it to. It could, but we're gonna revisit. Okay, we update the buffer. We get this. But first, before we go into it, we're going to say entity player. Does not resolve. So get the player. If it is never helpful in the way that you want it to. Never helpful in the way that you want it to be. Okay, if we have a player. We don't care about avoidance unless there is something to center our avoidance on. If you're going to go, there you go. Hop that way. As well, you stopped scratching my chin. So I had to hop over here and demand attention again. Switch the camera over here. You should be able to see him in the... Yeah, there he is. He's leaning his head forward and getting chin scratches. Sky is currently the oldest of my cats. He is, I think, tied for largest, but by far the fluffiest. I think he's a little bigger than Mason. But Mason is very lean, so it's hard to compare the two since you got to deal with at least an inch to inch and a half of fluff on every bit of Sky's surface. Hard to determine where fluff ends and cat begins. Okay, so it compiles. Does it run? It runs. We stop. We go over and we get our... Okay, it is still offset. Let's run it in Godot and see if we get any errors on that front. No worries, map. A lot of... we got a problem. A lot of folks pop in and they just kind of lurk and listen. And that's fine. Okay, we have to update the buffer periodically. We can't update it here. Because we are in the middle of a compute list. Noted. Okay. Can't do that here. So this whole chunk of getting the player needs to happen at a different time. Adding to the dispatch. Am I doing this full time? No. Would I like to? Yeah. Do I aspire to? Yes. It's not game start step, and we can't tread on the ground of the collision manager that is on world steps done. It's fully over. So that is physics start. Am I using any AI? Not at all if I can avoid it. And by if I can avoid it, I mean I am very confident that Microsoft injects some amount of LLM-derived results into their IntelliSense, or whatever they are calling it in Visual Studio. That is, when it tries to autocomplete a line for you, some of the results are too stupid to not be influenced at some point by AI. And welcome, Jamel. Like, some of the code that it suggests for an autocomplete fundamentally doesn't work. And hello, Nuff. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Oh, I could do physics start. Could do physics start. Okay. There have been some gaps in the schedule, Jamel. Big gaps in the schedule. We are currently working on maintenance of buffers for a shader that creates a pseudo flocking behavior for enemies. In a Vampire Survivor style game. Step, done step. We should be okay. Purge these so I can clean this up. There is a lot going on. Emits physics start, emits physics start. This is what I was referring to as far as the auto completion. So this naming, okay, I like that naming convention. I'll take that. Is equal to null. That's reasonable. Throughout my code, I use services dot. Okay, startup resource. That's a weird choice, but that's part of a list. That makes sense. So I say resolve, and it suggests this, emits physics start, because I'm getting a result, and emits physics start will return a type of that. Okay. So I get this result. This makes sense. I have had it give me like a vector to have that equal. That won't work. That won't compile. That won't run. There is nothing about that autocomplete that should have resulted in that. Start plus equals this. We're going to call it on physics start. Then we do a thing there, not that, a thing here. You do change your handle quite a bit. I'm gonna say, let's see here. Is that meant to be Systrology? Because if you're not using Elite 5, then we'll I'm not gonna try. Where did I remove those now? Should just be during the deconstructor that I can do that, though that's not 100% reliable, it would seem. Or I created it so I can remove it again. Just here. Take that and we can say minus equals that. So then on physics start, we need to update the buffer. We can take this, go all the way up to here. Just like that. So walking through what this is doing, we're getting the, we're using Godot. We are using Godot 4.5 as our engine. Everything else is written by me. And the design lives solely in my head. This is not a way to run a project, like a team project, at all. But it's a solo project. It's what we do. Godot does rendering and whatnot. Because I'm not going to try to write like a graphics engine myself. If there's something that Godot is going to do good enough for us, I'm going to let it do that. But for the purposes of how we're making this game and kind of the requirements that I have for it, there's a lot of custom stuff that I've had to make. That and the data structures that Godot encourages you to use are not organized in a way that I necessarily like to interact with. But, you know, you could dodge around a lot of that stuff. Okay, we update the position. Then if I go into our add dispatch here, I no longer need to get the player or update the buffer here. That, and we get that, and then we find this, and we tab all this back over. We build. Like, for example, this, the use of compute shaders is, for a lot of what I'm doing, if I didn't need the level of performance that I'm looking for, I absolutely wouldn't do it this way. This is a level of complexity and fiddliness that I would avoid wherever possible. Okay, not exploding there. We aren't getting any of the logic, but then again, we're not consulting it. Close and reopen. Still not doing anything there. Let's check over on the Godot side. Are we emitting errors? Godot emits a series of errors that you can check. You can see in the Godot editor. C# lets you catch some, runtime level errors, but it lets you break and walk through more, in a plausible fashion. Okay, well, we're not getting errors. This is good. This is good. That doesn't mean it's working. This is good. That's still not changing. Are we even updating it? Ah, we're not. Oh, no, here we go. Have our results, yes. There's a lot of stuff in it. We iterate over the whole thing. Then we're getting a very oddball result out of this. To some extent, tell a lie, there is an extension for shaders for having a atomic add for floats, which we are using here. And I mean, of course, there are going to be other like baked in libraries for things like Godot that you have to deal with. Okay, this is not where we're going to set it. This is the entity's position. We're offsetting it by the amount that we're recentering the image to, and then we're making it relative to where the player is. Or we're asserting that the player is 0. In this case, where is the center? Shouldn't call it 0. It's not the 0 of it. It is the position of the world, or the position of the center of what we're dealing with. Influenced position. Feel like there's something about the XY that we're throwing off here. Yes. Yeah, we have our output. This is Y. Well, that part of the algorithm was wrong. Okay, that's part of it. Oh, no, that won't work yet. We've got to switch over to the Godot editor to cause the shader to be recompiled. And then let's run it over here and make sure I don't get like an obvious error. As soon as these spawn, okay, we end it out. That will call this method. Okay, this is good. It's not ideal because it's not supposed to look this way. But so this is a high definition image file. What that means is that these color channels can be different than 0 to 1. They can be way higher than that. They can be negative. And the atomic adds I'm seeing don't make a lot of sense for what we're getting. But that's okay for now. So what this region of vectors is saying indicates is that we should be moving right and up to avoid what's in here. So the red is the X direction, the green is the Y direction, and we're using Godot space. So positive is down and right. And then these are saying left and down. It's still offset incorrectly, and we're still getting an odd result here. But it's a start. We are not going to set it to here. We're gonna comment this little bit out. I'll run. So keep in mind, what's happening here is that all 500 entities in the world are being checked against each other as quickly as possible to see if they collide, as well as creating a map of where the entities should go to avoid each other. And that is happening many times a second. So exit out, and the last image should now be saved. We open it up. We have 0 alpha channel with content. We're going to open it up with that in there. But we see that it is not present. We're going to need to set that then. Okay. So it's odd that we're getting as much of this as we are. And when we save it, x times the height plus j is what we're doing there. And we're dealing with the data as x times the height plus j. But we're not offsetting is the thing. But it shouldn't matter because the result of this process should always be a fresh result. We're always writing over top of the result. Why are they always sleeping? I mean, they're cats. They each kind of play in their own way. The one that's on camera right now, there's a TV behind me a little ways that is always playing like pictures of birds and squirrels. And she really loves that. Every now and then I will hear her trill and just drum away at the screen. The others will watch it. Sherbet also does that. But when a cat's not playing, it's sleeping, usually. Or perhaps napping or snoozing. They are ambush predators and all. This makes it relative to the center of the image where they are. Offset position makes it relative to the player. We already weren't using that. Even setting influence position. That's the one that we're dealing with. We're entirely touching influenced position. Which starts at where an entity is. So we're within range, and it is a collidable entity. Okay, we get the entity's position. We are going to let's disable that so we don't flashbang everybody. There, create a layer here. Okay. So we have the player in space. We have the screen in space. And we have an entity in space. It is evening. It's about 5 p.m., a little after. The player is there. Then by default, this is up here. It's always at 0, 0. We have the player is at an arbitrary position, and the enemy is at an arbitrary position. So the thing that we care about is the relative position. Let's put another one here. So that's the influenced area of the enemy. We want to take we need this to be here. So the first part is the offset to the player. And then the second part is the offset to the center. Let's pretend that this is centered. It's clearly not, but here we are, you know. So then if I take this thing, and what we're doing is we're looking here. Then for the player, we have our position from the line here to here. That's where the player is. So both of these are entirely for figuring out what the offset that we're dealing with is. So the orange part, if we go with where the player is and we first move it here, 0, 0 becomes this. And then we're going to subtract the offset. So it is plus player minus position. Or minus the dimensions offset, the upper bounds. So the entity's position minus the offset plus wherever 0 is. This is the offset as far as the world is concerned, or as far as the image is concerned. Influenced position is where we're marking. And that should be okay. So let's check the compilation of the shader. Clearly a problem. Wow, that was a issue. Okay, well, this is closer. The offset isn't right, but it's closer. And there's still black where there really shouldn't be black. Like, we're clearly hitting markers that we shouldn't. What am I setting the search range to? It's only 4. There should be very narrow windows around it. Oh dear. Okay, so we're looking at influenced position. comparing it to offset position, which is the position of the entity. Odd question, Kavari, but yes. Welcome, nonetheless. The offset position, okay. Is the, say, unpleasant nature of life, and that people within a physical proximity are not necessarily within the pool that of potential and actual friends. An advantage of the current days is that while it is not the same sort of relationship, it is still a possibility that there are people available to talk to in the online space. You should be, cautious of parasocial relationships when it comes to things like streamers, but, chatting with people in online games that you share and whatnot, while being aware of people with less than pure intentions, is still a positive way to go about things and to potentially fulfill mental social requirements that vary by individual. You do not consider the individual you are in a relationship with as a friend? That can be nature of the relationship, but, still. It's got to be something with the initial position and then how we're rendering it out. I feel like we're not mapping this correctly. But I mean, we're putting it into here in a particular fashion. Like, we are declaring that this is the way the data structure is set up. That every X that we increment, yes, we're effectively saying we're going across columns. When I fill up a column, I move to the next one. In that we're converting an array into 2D space. But we should only be getting here, to start with, we need to get an entity position. Like, this index must be true. Collidable must be true. It is possible that that is too frequently true. But this flow gets us a particular index within the buffer. So us hitting that entire area becoming opaque, means that we are hitting a great deal of the surface. So if we I think you have to account for both the individuals in the relationship as well as it's a matter of the individuals. It's for some folks, a online relationship is more beneficial to them because a physical proximity relationship may be too intense or just in general uncomfortable for them. But being able to still have a interaction, whether it be text or verbal or whatever, paired with the ability to essentially disengage at will, could be really positive. And the opposite is true, as well as the entire multi-dimensional space in between and around those kind of concepts. Like, I don't mind talking in voice and similar, but I'm not real big into the direct proximity kind of conversation. I don't need that, and that is often too much for me. As the fact that I have an avatar instead of, me might make apparent. In the fourth wall sense, What is going on here? Oh, okay. No, our offset position is based on 0. We aren't properly translating the position. There are a couple of things happening. We are not limiting the entity's presence properly. We need to be able to say this is not within bounds, so we can skip this entity. That is one of the first things we should be doing for a performance perspective. So it's making sure that we have the proper range around 0 defined. How can I do a job without procrastinating? That depends on how an individual operates, but part of it is for some people that it's not so much procrastination, it's urgency. So there are some folks that work best under deadlines, and if the deadline is too far away, they have trouble making like incremental progress. And the solution for those folks is usually to either impose their own, or if that doesn't work, to have the person imposing the major deadline impose more frequent deadlines, milestones, and check-in points and whatnot. Progress updates, Tell me what you did. Justify your work. And sometimes that doesn't matter. If you still complete your task sufficiently and the result is considered acceptable, it doesn't matter if you waited to the last minute to do it. If you still produce results and there isn't some other metric that you have technically failed on, then it doesn't matter. If the requirement was, I need a widget on my desk on the 10th of February, and there is a widget on the desk on the 10th of February, it doesn't matter what happened leading up to the 10th of February as long as a widget on a desk was the result. It is a thing that a lot of office managers just can't wrap their head around. It's, if the person's job is to produce desk widgets and desk widgets are being produced, I don't care what's going on leading up to that, as long as it isn't, disrupting something else. Oh, how do I know that they're not doing other stuff when they're working from home? Do the things that you need them to do get done? Yeah? Okay, who cares? You hired them to produce desk widgets, and they're giving you desk widgets on time and of quality. It seems like they're doing your job, so what's the problem? And often the problem is I need to be able to make it look like I am contributing to a system. So if there aren't people around for me to directly manage, how can I justify a manager being around? Okay, so I think our problem is how we are creating this offset. The position of the point in space is what we care about. So first we identify, is the entity there and is it within range of 0? And this is the left and right and up and down boundaries. We should check those first. So is it within range is the first thing. Is the entity inside the square determined by that 0 position? And again, it's not the 0 position. It is when we're rendering it, we need to get the point in space that is represented by 0, 0 in the grid. Quite literally, the first element of the array. What is its spatial position? Okay. Quick break, and then we'll get to that. For those that like what they're seeing and haven't done so already, please feel free to like content, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Those buttons do help the channel. So, press them. And back. Hey there, Tanashiro. Is that... I can never remember the folks with multiple accounts. But welcome again if you've already been here. Otherwise, welcome for the first time. This stream, I mean. Okay. So there is the positional offset of the grid, and then the boundary of the entity such that does it matter if it's present in the grid. Okay, so couple things. First, we're going to find 0. Change this to center. And then we're going to go into our base avoidance generator, and we're going to change this to be center. Okay. So this is the entity's position. If x is greater than or equal to center.x minus that, and plus that. Put our little if brackets here. And okay, so this is the entity has to be in bounds. If it is not within the area represented by the image, we do not care about it. Index valid. The entity's position is the okay. Going to say is equal to data.center get to this in a moment. 1 times that. No, it can just be minus that. Okay. So this is what 0, 0 of the box is. So whenever we're dealing with which position to put the index in, it is relevant to deal with this. So we are going to translate the world position into box position by adding box 0. So it is not offset position that we're dealing with. We already know that it's within the box. We care about the actual position in the world. So I and J all have to be within the boundary of the image. Okay. Not offset position, it's just position. Influenced position. Okay, that is effectively the upper left corner. So when we are putting it into position around it, since we've already culled them out, we should have the box 0, which means it should be a valid position. Should work. So again, box 0. By adding that in, no, we subtract box 0. Because we need to offset it based on that 0. If box 0 is in positive space, we need to pull everything up and left. If it's in negative space, it's down and right, and corresponding other positions. Okay, what did I break? Something broke. Open it up. There we go. Line 76. No semicolon on the prior line for box 0. Boop. $82. It should be... Hey, Lunar, did I add in the Potion Crafter Papers, Please hybrid minigame yet? A border-like customs control for magic potions could be interesting. Yeah, I mean, you could have things like looking at the potion and considering, is it safe to bring in? Is it questionable? What happens if there is a spill? We're getting there. Again, I don't know why we have dark zones being rendered. Let me double check in that where we are. Get that. So now we have color values. So X and Y cannot be 0, otherwise we won't write that to file. Let's run that again just to be sure. Close this up. Better. But we're getting some smearing. There's something wrong about how we're doing these calculations. Hey there, Schmuggums. For one, there's got to be something spilling over. Hey. Hey. I wouldn't say we're winning, Schmuggums. We are kind of floundering at the moment. Using iteration bytes there, are we? Yeah, we're never updating iterations. Well, why are we touching iteration values here? The iteration buffers already have the values for us. Yeah. We create those at the start. So we're going through the iterations properly. It's just weird that it's smearing the values down. Like, this is better, but we're still off target. The circle is down and right from where it should be, and we have these columns with little blips up above. And this black kind of angular space over here. So we still have a flaw in the way that we're calculating this. We get in here, we have our width and height. Which are the floor of these values as integers. It's like a floor. We are rounding down. So that we get, effectively, we should be creating a odd number no matter what. The Alt-Tab away a couple of times forces the refocusing of Godot, which will trigger the recompile. It has to be compiled there for any of the changes to take effect. Should isolate the entities. Run it again. I want to check here. So each time we get the output buffer, here, I want to check, because every time we get to here, the output bytes should be cleared. This. So these should be able to be populated. Right about now. right here. So this and output bytes. Yeah, it should be filling something in there. So our offset for how we're rendering it still isn't working. Getting for output though. Whenever we do that, we copy over. So we're just saving off the last time we got the information. So we keep a reference to it, but there's nothing that stops it from having some idiosyncrasy to this. Just make sure we're getting this right. Don't really want array.copy. We want a duplication of this. This is a hot mess. I don't like doing this, but I do want to do it for debugging purposes. This will wildly fragment memory. Is not ideal, but here we are, you know. Same result. Okay, that's not the problem then. Which is good. I mean, like I said, that was ugly as all get out, and I don't want that to be something we have to do. invert from here. Apparently not. What we're ending up doing here is saying we have, we are storing the result of this. We are putting an address in data that represents the array that this is giving us back. Then we're saying, oh, I'm also going to store that off for effectively debugging purposes. So this is entirely just address space. So we're still off by at least a little bit. So the X and Y are not correct. Like what we're putting in the image is not correct. It could be that functionally it's okay. Feels like we're doing this somehow wrong, but trying to figure out how. Oh, excuse me. Let's change this up. Okay, move along, man. X is equal to a divided by height is equal to a modulus height You're being a nuisance, ma'am. You are. Ember is being squirmy. Same result, but a little variation at the bottom there. It's x times height plus y. So that's ultimately, again, x divided by height, rounded down, will be, the integer division will be the, or index will be the x then, and then the modulus, the leftover, is the y. But it seems like we are off kilter by now a portion of the height. That'll get 1,000, and that'll get 550 when we're rounding down. Adding those together, we'll get the 1,100 plus the 1 for the central position that we're dealing with. Is it? Yeah, it should be. Ugh. We know this is coming in as a fixed value here, the width and the height. We setting it wrong? Width and height. So we get in here. Area primes data width, area primes data height. Get the upper and lower bounds, and we are going to get the center of the box, or the 0 of the box, by taking the center position wherever the player is and subtracting half of the width of it in the height, Then we're going to do box 0 dot x. It has to be at least that. Just like this is box 0 dot y for the left boundary, or the top boundary. This is box 0 dot x. Yeah, leave that as is. This is the same thing ultimately. Did we get any errors on the Godot side? Maybe there's something fiddly happening. No. It's running really slow because we're actually doing this processing. This isn't correct. It's not the width upper bound. It's the same thing here. So we're culling the entity here. If the entity is not in bounds, we don't care. But it's not that it's less than or equal to width upper bounds for this marker. We're not going to stop until it hits upper bounds, since we're iterating left to right. Top to bottom. Okay, so and so this is inbounds. We're going to want to be able to do an inbounds check each time, because we can't set it if it's out of bounds. That could potentially result in error states that would stop this from running properly. Because we could just iterate I to J. Okay, so this is box 0 dot x plus 2 nope. Ember be zooming. Amber be zooming. All right, so our problem right now is our loop. We need to make it so that we are efficiently iterating over the search range around a target, but then we have to cull influence positions, like positions being searched or edited that are not inside the image. Okay, so it's going to be our influence range, area params .data.influence range. And the same thing for this. We can put a failsafe in, though. Integer. Let's get all of this calculated. Right. Bottom. Okay, so now we have our boundaries around center. So it has to be, x has to be greater than or equal to the left bound. It has to be less than or equal to the right bound. Top. This was wrong. Greater than or equal to top bound and less than or equal to bottom bound. Again, lower numbers to the left and to the top. Okay, so we're within range. We're iterating over to I, the influenced x. So influenced x needs this same treatment. Oh, no, that's not right. Okay, no. X, X, Y, Y. Okay. as an integer. You have to be very explicit with this. Shaders are effectively C. Right bound, top bound, int. Oh, dear, dear. Sorry if I get quiet. I'm kind of focused in here. A4. Again, we're flowing through. Okay, we create a vector 2 of this. We don't need the y plus. So there's our influenced position. If influenced position is in bounds, then we're going to be able to recede. Increase our legibility a bit here. And if we're in bounds again, now we're going to go through and get our same position and set them. Built, and we're going to go over here. We have an error in our code. 54. Semicolon. 103. Use this a few times, so we need to six. Okay. Run this, see if we get any Godot side errors, because that's where it would likely happen. That, look at this. All right, well, I mean, it's different. Is it better? Unclear. I am seeing a potential repeated pattern top to bottom here, but not 100%. So, like, this spot right here would be where a blob is. The center of this shape. These little white spots. Now, they're going to be mutually influenced by other ones around them. But if there is an entity here, it's saying, this is a spot where you're not being pushed away. And then the subsequent areas are being pushed out of this range. So anything in this area is going to be pushed up away from this. So the enemies will try to gravitate up and left from the black areas and down and right generally from the color areas. But we're clearly getting some idiosyncrasies going on here. But this is better than the weird circle with, like, what is being rendered in here is more correct. It is still quite wrong, but it's less wrong. Oh. I and J, and we're adding I and J to the influence position. We check, is the influence position in bounds? If it is, we're okay. So then we get the direction from that position and apply it. Hey there, Minty. Well, I'm glad you had the opportunity to swing through. Just generally busy, work busy, you know, holiday busy. What kind of busy? General busy. Okay. pulling them left and up based on where the box is to center it. Then we are... What are you doing, Mason? What are you doing? That's why that is the position we put it in. Like the end positions aren't right. Let's try going back to the original one where we iterate over the whole image. Performance is still not good enough, but that's not what we're targeting right now. Performance is way better than it should be. Something's not right. So again, this is better, but can't be right. Let's let it run for a little longer. Okay, there is overwriting of data happening for one. We're still, our offset can't be correct. Now it's possible just that it's that they're bunching up, but they're repeating shapes in here, and that doesn't make sense. So we're still, something is still wrong in the data set here. It's not all repeating shapes, but there are enough repeating shapes that aren't circular. things here. Buttons. All right. I think my brain is stalling out, folks. So we're going to call it here. Ideally, we will pick up again tomorrow and try to dig further into this. We're getting close. This is, like I said, wrong but promising, because if nothing else, these little shapes here that are forming are the kind of shapes that we want to have happen. These are the correct kind of avoidance shapes, but the fact that they are uniform, that we are always getting the kind of up and left, well, no, they should always be uniform, but I would expect to see, again, more of a circle around this. Like, center to this is where they're moving in, and this is accumulating strangely. And there are way too many dots. So clearly there's something that's stacking up, and there's something about the positioning that we aren't doing right. Because there should, for one, there should only be 500 of these little shapes. And that's more than 500. That's way more than 500 little shapes. So we got to work on that. It is possible that we're seeing the data come out wrong. So there's also that possibility. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll have to go from there. Wrong button. Wrong button. Oh, all right, folks. I hope you had a good time with us tonight. If you like what you saw and would like to see more, remember to like, follow, subscribe, comment. All those buttons are good for the channel, so I'd appreciate it if you press them. Like I said, ideally we will be back tomorrow with some more coding. Failing that, we'll have a game stream. I haven't decided whether we're going to do an AABB kind of rotation or an ABAB rotation. Either way, I do want to get some games in there to make sure that we're not burning the candle at both ends as far as the coding is concerned or the gaming. We need to make sure that we're getting development progress and that we're not, hyper fixating on one game or the other. But again, folks, I hope you had a good time today, and I hope the rest of your day is good. I'll see you next time.